What happens when one of Britain's most respected actors sits down for what should be a friendly chat only to face question after question that crosses every line imaginable in just 35 seconds of biting comments? A morning television host managed to push Dame Judi Dench too far, resulting in one of the most shocking walkouts in daytime television history. The studio lights were bright that morning. Judi Dench walked onto the set with her usual grace, offering warm smiles to the audience. She had done this so many times before: the gentle greetings, the soft banter, the expected questions about her film, theater, or charity work. Nothing complicated, nothing dramatic. Just another interview, or so she thought. Lorraine Kelly sat across from her, eyes gleaming with a strange energy. The cameras rolled, applause filled the room, and Judi settled into her seat, adjusting her dress and crossing her legs with the ease of a woman who had lived 1,000 public moments. "Dame Judi, welcome. Wonderful to have you here," Lorraine began, her voice sugar-sweet, but almost too sweet. "Thank you for having me," Judi replied warmly. Then the shift came. "I have to ask, you've been acting for what? About 100 years now?" Lorraine's grin stayed fixed. The audience laughed, unsure if they should. Judi's smile tightened slightly. "Well, not quite," Judi said politely. "I've been fortunate to work for many years." "Fortunate indeed," Lorraine said, her tone sharpening. "But let's be honest, at your age, how much longer can you really keep doing this? Aren't there younger actors who deserve the spotlight?" Silence. Someone gasped. Judi straightened in her chair, the warmth draining from her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Are you suggesting there's an age limit on passion?" "Oh, come on." Lorraine waved her off. "Don't be so sensitive. You've had your turn. Maybe it's time to step aside." Judi blinked slowly, breathing deeply. "Acting is not a competition. I work because I love what I do." Lorraine leaned forward, smelling blood. "Speaking of your life, let's talk about your marriages. Twice, correct? Some people might say you moved on rather quickly after your first husband passed." Judi's breath caught. The air went cold. "That is incredibly disrespectful," she said quietly. "You're a public figure," Lorraine retorted. "You don't get to choose." Judi's voice steadied. "There is a difference between being public and being humiliated." The tension was thick enough to touch, and things were only getting started. Judi Dench had done hundreds of interviews across her long, celebrated career, some challenging, some lighthearted, some deeply personal. But never had she encountered anything like this. Lorraine Kelly leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, almost daring Judi to react. The audience sensed the tension and sat frozen, unsure whether they were watching a morning show or a brewing confrontation. "Let's not pretend," Lorraine said, her voice tinged with mock sympathy. "People want the truth. They want the real stories. You've been put on a pedestal for years. Don't you think it's time to be a little more transparent?" Judi inhaled slowly, trying to maintain composure. "I agreed to speak about my work, not have my life dissected." "Oh, please," Lorraine scoffed. "Everything about your life is the work. The tragedies, the relationships, they all feed your career. That's why people care." Judi's eyes darkened. "My private grief is not material for entertainment." Lorraine rolled her eyes dramatically. "Honestly, Dame Judi, you're being overly dramatic. Which I suppose makes sense, considering your profession." The studio gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Judi straightened her shoulders. "I came here in good faith, to share stories about my new project. Instead, I'm being attacked." "Attacked?" Lorraine barked out a laugh. "If this feels like an attack, maybe you've lived too sheltered a life. I'm just asking questions." "Questions meant to provoke," Judi said quietly but firmly. "That is not journalism." Lorraine waved her hand again, dismissively. "You've been coddled for too long. Everyone treating you like royalty. Not here. On my show, we keep things real." Judi stared at her. "There is a difference between being real and being cruel." Lorraine leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Maybe you're just not as interesting as people assume. Maybe I have to push harder to get anything worth broadcasting." The word struck like a slap. Judi felt her heartbeat kick up, not from fear, but from indignation. She had dedicated decades to storytelling, to craft, to her audience. And this woman, who had invited her here, was belittling all of it. "I have given more of myself to this industry than you will ever understand," Judi said, voice low with quiet power. "But I will not be demeaned." "Oh, here we go," Lorraine muttered. The grand dame speech. Judi had heard enough. Something inside her, something dignified, something resolute, clicked into place. And that was the beginning of the breaking point. The room felt smaller now, as if the studio itself were holding its breath. Tension clung to the air like static. Judi Dench sat perfectly still, her hands resting gently on her lap, her posture steady. Lorraine Kelly, however, was leaning forward sharply, her eyes lit with something that looked far too close to hostility for a morning show host. You know what I think? Lorraine said, her smile twisting. I think you've just forgotten how to be challenged. Everyone tiptoes around you because you're Dame Judi Dench. They're terrified of offending you. Judi met her eyes calmly. There is nothing wrong with being challenged. But what you are doing is not a challenge. It is cruelty dressed up as curiosity. Lorraine scoffed loudly. Bullying, cruelty, such big, dramatic words. It's just a conversation. It stopped being a conversation the moment you questioned my age, my relevance, and my grief, Judi replied. Her voice was steady but edged now with unmistakable steel. You invited me here only to tear me down. The audience murmured in agreement, even through the harsh studio lights. Judi could see the discomfort on some faces, people shifting in their seats, brows furrowed, lips pressed tight. They knew this wasn't entertainment. This was a line being crossed repeatedly. Oh, come off it, Lorraine said, waving a dismissive hand. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Judi's head tilted slightly, her patience worn thin. I have spent my life in the kitchen, Lorraine. I have handled fires far hotter than this. But I do not have to sit here while you burn me for sport. Lorraine's face twitched, her confidence faltering for just a second. You're making this into a bigger deal than it is. No, Judi said softly. I am naming what it is. For the first time, Lorraine shifted nervously in her chair. She glanced toward the producers behind the camera, who were whispering urgently, motioning for her to ease up. But she ignored them and instead pushed harder. You're being difficult, Lorraine said sharply. People will think you're hard to work with. Judi's expression softened into something almost sad. If refusing to tolerate disrespect makes me difficult, then so be it. The room went silent. Lorraine opened her mouth, but the words collapsed before forming. Judi had taken control back, not with anger, but with dignity so heavy it filled every corner of the set. I will not stay, Judi said, her voice final. Then she reached for the microphone clipped to her dress, and the entire studio froze. Judi unclipped her microphone slowly, deliberately, as though giving Lorraine one last chance to recognize the gravity of what she had done. But Lorraine only stared, arms crossed, her expression fixed somewhere between disbelief and irritation. The audience watched in stunned silence, barely daring to breathe. Where do you think you're going? Lorraine asked, almost laughing, as if the idea of someone walking out on her show was impossible. I'm leaving, Judi said simply. No raised voice, no theatrics, just quiet certainty. I will not remain somewhere I am treated with contempt. Oh, don't be ridiculous, Lorraine scoffed. Sit down. We're not finished. Yes, we are, Judi replied, her voice steady as stone. For the first time, Lorraine's confidence cracked. Panic flickered in her eyes. You walk off this set, you know exactly how it will look. I do, Judi said, and I accept that. What I will not accept is another moment of disrespect. The producers scrambled behind the cameras, waving frantically for Lorraine to stop talking. But Lorraine, fueled more by pride than sense, stepped toward Judi as she stood. You're really going to walk away? Over a few harmless questions, Lorraine demanded. Judi turned to face her fully. Harmless questions? She repeated softly. You question my age, my place in this industry, my personal relationships, my grief. That is not harmless. That is cruelty disguised as honesty. Lorraine sputtered. It's television. It's my job. Your job, Judi said gently, is to speak with people, not tear them apart. The audience began to applaud. Quiet at first, then stronger. Some stood. The applause grew louder, rising like a wave that crashed straight over Lorraine's composure. Her face reddened as she realized the room had turned against her. Judi didn't gloat, didn't smirk, didn't even look back at Lorraine as she walked off the set. Her footsteps were measured, dignified, resolute. She left not in anger, but with absolute clarity. A producer hurried after her in the hallway. Dame Judi, please, maybe we can fix this. Maybe we can start over. Judy stopped, meeting the young woman's eyes with kindness, not bitterness. What happened out there wasn't a mistake, she said softly. It was a choice. And I'm making mine. Back on set, Lorraine faced the camera again, forcing a brittle smile. Well, that was unexpected, she said, her voice trembling. Some people just can't handle a frank conversation. But the damage was done. Viewers had seen everything. In her dressing room, Judy gathered her coat. Her assistant helped her, murmuring, "Everyone's on your side. They're already posting about it." Judy nodded. "I didn't walk out for sides. I walked out for self-respect." As she stepped outside into the cool morning air, crew members clapped for her. She thanked them quietly. Sometimes, the strongest thing a person can do is simply walk away.